All right, we'll call the meeting to order. It's 7 o'clock. Roll call. All board members are in attendance with Vicki, Marina, and Robert. I will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, with that, the mission statement. The Viroqua Area School District provides a quality education for all students that inspires continuous learning, positive relationships, curiosity, and compassion in an environment that welcomes diversity while developing respectful and responsible citizens, even with COVID. That's not in there, but maybe today it should be added. And I'd like to begin. We have 3 new administrators to our district. And so I would like them to introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about themselves. I will start with Tom Burkhalter.
All right, Tom Burkhalter, new district administrator. I come here after 3 years in the Clintonville School District, the last 2 as their elementary principal. I'm extremely excited to move to the Viroqua area, and I actually am closing on a house, hopefully in the next 2 weeks in town here. So I'm very excited to move my family. And so I've been married to my wife, Kim, for 9 years. And I have a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 1-year-old. So we are bored all the time, clearly. Extremely excited to be here.
Well, welcome. Thank you. Kathy, you want to go next? Kathy Reed.
I'm Kathy Reed. I'm the Student Services Director. This is coming home for me. I graduated from here. I taught here. And then the past 4 years, I was the Special Ed Director in Prairie du Chien schools. So I'm very excited to be coming home.
Welcome. Welcome back. We're glad to have you. Pat Olbert.
Yeah, thank you. Pat Olbert. I'm the new elementary and Montessori principal. I'm from Sparta, still live in Sparta. Taught 6 years in Sparta. Was principal for 8 years in Sparta. But again, like Tom said, I'm super excited for this challenge and this opportunity. I feel like sometimes you gotta go outside your comfort zone a little bit to keep learning and growing. And you know, I just told Tom this today. It feels like, in some ways, it feels like I've been here for a year, and in some ways, it feels like it's my first day. But super excited. My family came down and treated me to dinner tonight, which was cool before the meeting. So I'm married with 2 kids, 14 and 11. All is well.
Oh, welcome. The board does have a gift for all of you, and it's all local products from the area. So fruits, vegetables, cheeses, crackers, pancakes, not beer. That's not included, and some sodas and juices, and there's just a lot of good things from this area. And so we wanted to welcome you with something from this area. So
Thank you.
I'd also like to thank you all for the work, not just the 3 of you, but also Mike and Jason and John, Beth, for all the work that you're doing. I know it's tremendous right now, lots of hours, and I want to thank you for what you're doing to create a positive learning environment that's safe for all of our staff and students and community members. So thank you for that. The next item is Spotlight on Education, Title I Schoolwide Plan Summary. We have Krista Woodward, Amy Clements, Marlene Blatz, Christian Babb, and Leanne Marion. And I don't know how you want to start. People can't hear me very well, so that's why I don't have this on all the time. Go ahead.
Hello. You've probably been hearing about our Title I Schoolwide Plan.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm
first?
Krista
sorry.
Woodward, Curriculum and Instruction Coordinator, and I'm here to kick us off and do a little introduction, and then we have a lot of information. We try to keep it concise, but we put a lot of time and a lot of thought into the details. Not all the details, but the framework, let's just say. And so we would like to share our updates with you. Starting back in January, we had the support of a CISA person along with quite a big representative group of our elementary staff to begin reviewing and working on our title plan. We had regular meetings throughout the school year until the closing, and we continued via Zoom once we were closed. We ended up defining 3 goals in the end, and the rest of our group here is going to help kind of walk through the process that we took, and also the actions that we propose for the next school year. Next up is Marlene with the next slide.
Thank you, Krista. My name is Marlene Blatz, and I'm a new retiree, but I've been in multiple positions here in the district. And I wanted to finish up my work with this group because they're such a good group to work with, as are all the elementary teachers and staff. And Title I is near and dear to my heart. And so first, we're going to start off. I wanted to tell you the difference between school-wide programs and targeted assistance title programs. So our first step in revising our title plan was to discover and learn about the 2 types of programs that are available. Both cover reading language arts. How they differ is in the delivery of services and the students that are served. And so if we start with the school-wide program, you can see that it's designed to upgrade the entire school. It's to uplift the entire program. It affects all the students. We have contact with all the students in school. Whereas the targeted assistance program is specifically focused on those students who have been assessed and show the greatest need. We are the gurus of reading, and so they take the most qualified to reach the most needy. And so it only affects the identified students in school. And so after we took a look at the 2 different programs, we came to realize that there was a need to overhaul our existing plan to bring us into compliance with DPI. And so our next step was to examine our current Title I plan. And so last year, this is just looking at last year, 2019 and 20. Our Title I efforts, the staff served, well, this is different. Let's see, look at this now. Nope, go back. That's good, that's good. So I'm just going to put in a different order. So we serve students in both reading, language arts, and math, one or the other, or both. 106 students were served through intensive intervention. This was 30 minutes, generally 30 minutes of time in which students were pulled from the classroom and they received supplemental instruction above and beyond what the classroom instruction was. And so that was about half of our day with intensive interventions using research-based programs. And the other half of our day was with WIN time. WIN is what I need. And that was also a 30-minute designated block that was targeted instruction for reading and language arts. And that was in grades 1-4. And those title services were provided by 2 full-time teachers, one of which was our reading specialist, the other is myself, 1 full-time para, and then 2 half-time teachers. Next. So, analyzing student academic achievement, culture, systems, and parent and family engagement, this was the next step in developing our school-wide improvement plan. We knew that that was the direction we needed to go, and so these were the areas that we looked at. First, to determine our student academic achievement, we looked at the forward tests from the last 3 years. In examining our school culture, we revisited the results of a school-wide implementation review, an assessment that all, well, not an assessment, a survey that all staff took this last year. And then to consider our systems, we revisited a PLC audit, a professional learning community audit, and looked at that. And then to learn more about our family and parent engagement, we looked at a variety of sources. And we found that all 4 areas have needs, and This task was a huge undertaking that yielded that discovery. However, experience has taught us that we can't do it all at once. So our 3 goals, which you'll see in a little bit, will focus on our area, what we felt of greatest need. And that one that is near and dear to our hearts is our students and their academic achievement. And so Leanne, via Zoom, is going to tell you a little bit next about some of the data from our school report card.
Yes, thank you, Marlene. Are you all able to hear me? Am I clear? Okay, all right. So like Marlene said, I do have 2 Wisconsin forward charts to share with you guys. And we use these same charts when we were working on completing our needs assessment. So this first chart shows the overall proficiency of students across 3 years in ELA and math. And just generally speaking, we can see that student ELA proficiency decreased by 5% and math proficiency decreased by 8%. And as we were looking at this information as a small group, and also when we shared and talked about this information as a whole staff, we were surprised to see this data and really agree that, you know, this is not what we want to see for our school and for our students. So going on to the student subgroups, we also examined this data. And so students who fall into one of these subgroups have an even lower rate of proficiency when compared to overall student proficiency. You'll see that there is an asterisk there for students with disabilities for several years. And that just means that there were not enough students in this subgroup to report that subgroup data. And so we just have the 18 and 19 information to look at. So again, you know, I think this goes without saying, but we want to see student proficiency improve and believe that this is a collective effort. And Christian will talk about that collective effort in our goals and strategies.
Thank you, Leanne. Hopefully you can all hear me okay. I thought this is good practice, getting used to delivering and speaking to a group and speaking clearly, and even hopefully figuring out ways that our students can tell that we're smiling at them behind these masks. So I'm nervous that this is my first chance to speak in front of a group with a mask on. So as Marlene said, we created goals that we thought would focus, prioritize student growth and achievement, what's nearest and dearest to our hearts. Have you had a chance to read our goals? Then I'm not going to read them to you. Instead, I'm just going to talk about what we prioritized in these goals. So as you read through the 3 goals, you probably noticed that the goals have a strong emphasis on collaborative instructional teams and the adult practices, what we do and how we work together as teachers. And there's considerable research and evidence that supports that data-driven conversations, collaboration, and instructional team planning can have great impact on student growth and achievement. So when you look at goal number 1, it prioritizes frequent, consistent, and structured opportunities for instructional teams to have those really important conversations, share our knowledge and experience and expertise to continually develop and improve our practices, which research shows will result in more effective instruction and have greater impact on the student achievement. Goal number 2 prioritizes instructional teams working together to analyze student assessment data. Research also supports and shows that teams need to take a deep dive into data-driven conversations to make instructional decisions and guide instruction, resulting in greater student growth. So we've always collaborated, we've always worked together. We're really prioritizing using the data, using these common formative assessments, laying them out, hopefully on a weekly basis, looking at them, discussing them together, and making decisions as a team versus teachers alone in a room, looking at it and figuring out the instructional planning. We think it's going to be a much greater impact in this teamwork that we're doing. You probably noticed that last line about supplemental instruction as measured by a locally created pre and post survey. That's on our to-do list. That's coming, but we plan on creating this pre and post survey at a later date, which will be based obviously on the teaching environment and circumstances that we meet in the fall. There's still unknowns. So what that survey will look like to accurately reflect how we're working together and what we're doing in the classroom. So that's on our to-do list. Goal number 3 prioritizes universal small group instruction in the classroom. So recognizing that those small group instruction is very impactful and delivering it universally, as Marlene said at the beginning, this is about having the greatest impact on all of our students. And we see it as we're wanting to flood each grade level with the experts, as Marlene called them, the gurus of reading and math, so that we're working together. And what that's going to do is create a much more diverse team working together to develop the best instruction. So we see a need to have flexible small groups that are consistently adjusted and grouped based on student need and growth. So by consistently looking at the data, making the adjustments, we can regroup them in more frequent cycles, and we also think that will impact growth and achievement. And I think I said this, but I'll just repeat it. This goal also prioritizes the importance of having a diverse team of educators collaborating to plan and deliver high quality instruction in small groups in the classroom. So those are our goals. That's a little bit about why we prioritize those. And we've been working hard, so we have strategies to help us achieve those goals. And Amy is going to present on that.
All right, so again, I'm not going to read through the goals again, but we have them displayed there for a reminder for you. A lot of these items, Christian kind of explained a little bit because they are the reasons behind choosing the goals, but I'm going to go through some of the other strategies as well. So for goal number 1, we talked a lot about the master schedule. Christian talked a lot about having those meetings and hopefully weekly meetings, but we have to have a schedule that works for us in order for all those people to be present during those meetings. So creating a master schedule to reflect that, again, hopefully weekly. Also identifying who those team members are, because it is important that they are all present in order to use everybody's skills and the knowledge that they contain, not only their background knowledge for the curriculum, but also for each student. So we talked about that, including our gurus or our title staff, but also our special education teachers, depending on the grade level. Each grade is obviously different. But in order for these meetings to be successful, obviously we need everybody there, but we need everybody trained to have a proper PLC. Yes, we currently have these meetings happening weekly with a smaller team, but we need to make them super effective. And there is training that CISA does provide, so we would look into utilizing their services to create a stronger PLC community. And lastly, for goal number 1, we need to identify, train, and coach around high quality instruction in both literacy and math. And again, CISA can be utilized for this through embedded professional development and coaching. Oh, that's number 1. There we go. Goal number 2. Again, this one, we need to communicate how those universal screening measures are happening, and we need to implement them school-wide. So that's what Marlene was previously talking about, those students that are identified to be in these pull-out groups. We still are going to utilize those systems and screeners to prioritize who those students are, but we need to dig a little bit deeper into those screeners. including the second one, being able to look at that data, which requires training again. It's one thing to look at the data and see the numbers point blank, but to be able to dig in and understand how are we going to go forth with this data. Again, training and provide instructional coaching around the Reading Strategies book, which is a resource that we currently have that is for guiding and supporting needs for students. I believe it was 4 years ago, Sarah Thomas, when she was our reading specialist, she was able to purchase a Reading Strategies book for each teacher. So we currently already have this resource, but we need to do some training on it to utilize it more properly. And then lastly, for goal number 2, we need to train and support educators through coaching to implement assessment sources like running records, conferring notes, and readers' notebooks. So again, using what we already have, we don't want to recreate the wheel, but using what we have and digging deeper into that through training and coaching. And then our last goal, goal number 3, the strategies that we're going to use to achieve this goal is to provide ongoing professional development in best practices for small group instruction. That's the core of goal number 3, is that small group instruction, again, utilizing the Reading Strategies book. We also would like to provide training and coaching on intentional and cooperative co-teaching models, because as Christian mentioned, we're going to try the flooding into the classroom, which means bringing an extra educator into that classroom and being able to utilize a co-teaching model when they're in there. We also need to reduce the number of ELOs, which are essential learning outcomes, in both ELA and math to fewer than 10. We have been working on this process. Krista's been a rock star helping us narrow down our ELOs. So we've done that once, but we need to do it again to make them even smaller, to really dig into those core standards that we really want them to learn, especially now with potential online teaching and whatnot. We really need to focus on what is the priority standards. And then lastly, we need to identify collaborative team members again by grade level and design that schedule that prioritizes small group instruction. So not only are they getting into our weekly meetings, but they are able to come into the classrooms to provide those small group instructional groups. So every great goal has to have a plan, and these are our strategies that we believe will be the best in achieving this outcome of these 3 goals. And Krista's going to wrap it up.
So as you can see, we are very passionate and involved in this work. And so to just highlight some of the main ideas or the things that we learned throughout this process, all of our goals and the strategies that go with them really showed us that it's our adult practices that we need to have a sharper focus on, fine tune, learn from each other, learn from other experts, to look at the work that we do to for the end result of improving student achievement. We do have an option of possibly using a CSA 4 support person 30 days throughout the school year that we hope will be considered. This would be someone who would do small group work, push into the classrooms, work with teams, help one-on-one, someone that could really help us reach these goals. Another thing we learned, that if we follow this plan, we will be in compliance with the expectations of the Every Student Succeeds Act, which is something we all want to be aligned with. We also believe that this needs to be an annual process, something that we review and revise each year. It was very intense this year, but as we get the hang of it, it should be a much more smooth process at the end of each year, where we just look at the current student needs and revise and adjust what we might need for the next year. And to conclude, if implemented, these strategies will improve our universal instruction and subsequent learning for all students. All students needs all students in the school, no matter who they are. So we thank you for your time. And anything else? That was a lot. Questions?
Does anybody have any questions?
I want to say that, Krista, this is great work your team is doing. You guys, I appreciate the work you have put into this. And fortunately, I know all too well what the school-wide plan entails. I wrote our first school-wide plan, which was a while ago, and I know they've got more complex, but you really focus this very nicely. And I'm sure hopefully can make everything happen, with this, who knows what's gonna happen, and, I'm sure Pat will appreciate all the work you've done on this, because it certainly helps him too, so thank you guys, and thank you Marlene for sticking with them, even though you're
Yes.
on your way out, but, who knows, maybe Marlene will be here subbing or doing something else down the road, so thank you guys very much for doing that.
Does anybody else have any questions? So I do. So, number one, thank you. Obviously, a lot of thought has gone into all of this, and I understand it hasn't been implemented yet. So what data do you plan on collecting in order to implement the process? Do you have a plan already?
It would be different data for each of the goals. For the goal on collaboration or PLC, we are hoping to use that, or if we described it as the pre and post survey, something that just very informal to collect teachers' ideas and thoughts about collaborative work and teamwork, and compare it to a similar type survey at the end of the year and see what else we need to continue to work on. We'll continue to use the universal screening data. That may look different depending on what the school year looks like. But that again will be very important to collect. How we as the adults use that is going to be the key piece. So the data stays the same, but how we understand that and use it to diagnose the more precise needs of the student is what will change.
And also for our PLCs, we do have an agenda that we fill out and that we send in each week that we are doing it. So that will be another piece of data that we can look at and see how our PLC agenda has been changing with the notes that we take and based on the data.
And then I see with collaboration, you need planning time. So what's planning time look like with this process?
That'll fall on me. To build that in.
He's going to create a magical schedule where
Master.
everything falls into
Yes.
place.
Yep.
Okay.
And my thought is, come up with one, if school's back, we're ready to go, what that would look like, and then possibly some variations, if we have to have, individual recesses or just have a little more flexibility. But you have to build in time. You can't expect this to happen after school or any other time. It has to be built into the schedule to be effective, I think.
Well, I know in the past, we've talked about, planning time for our staff. And so I didn't know if you were looking to, expand to have, more, an early pickup,
Depending
a
on-
day off a month or something like that. I mean, did you have those conversations of what's necessary in order to be successful?
Well, I think we
some
would-
of it depends on the.
Well, obviously,
Yeah.
COVID, I mean, if you take COVID out of it, in that normal, whatever that means, world, what does that look like?
We did talk about wanting it to be a weekly planning, because as teachers plan now, you plan a week ahead and you adjust daily. So we wanted it to be weekly, and that's already into the schedule.
Okay.
And we thought for title staff, a title person would be assigned per grade level rather than trying to cover K4. And maybe doing the same thing with special ed teachers, and just trying to do some creative work in meeting that goal.
And we kind of got to do a trial run in the spring because we had, extra planning time because we had our Zoom meetings. And we did do the one representative from the title team per grade level. And so that was a definite plus, having that one person so we can communicate back and forth. It really helped with that communication piece.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Marlene. And I think we need to congratulate Leanne as well. She's a new mom. So congratulations. I don't know if there's any other congratulations that I'm unaware of, but those are two that I'm aware of. So, well, thank you for coming in. Thank you for your time. I know it's summer, so we really appreciate all the work that you're doing to assist our students to be successful, because obviously there's a lot of work to do. So thank you. And it's a more complicated time now too. So get creative. Yep. Thinking outside the box, and I don't even know what the box looks like. So.
Flexible.
flexible as well.
Yes.
Right, so thank you all
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you all.
I would like to have a motion to alter the agenda slightly and move the Dairyland Power easement request up to the next item. Could I have a motion to make that change? A second?
Second.
All in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 I think that's only respectful of the two folks that are here to present. So the Dairyland Power easement request, is there a motion to approve the Dairyland Power easement as recommended by the Building and Grounds Committee? Is there a second?
Second.
All right, with that, I'm now going to have the two of you come. Do you have something you want to share? Mike, are you
Yeah,
wanting to
I
share?
can probably handle it. And not to put them on the spot or anything, but I mean, they were here,
Plenty?
in case
Okay.
something came up and they just wanted to be here to answer any questions.
Do you want to
of the
introduce
board.
them?
If they want. It's Steve DeVos from Dairyland's right away.
I'm a contractor.
Yep.
And Steve Schauer, I'm the manager of real estate and right away with Dairyland Power.
Thank you both for coming.
You're welcome.
So to bring the full board up, the building and grounds, and Robert, I'm not trying to step on your toes here, and you can jump in at any point, but we were presented a request for right of way both the same time COVID started. And basically the response was, we can't meet with you right now, and we will talk to you later. And Steve's kept on us, and we were able to meet here more recently. And we did have some questions as to how the original easement that was presented was presented. Not so much in what they were presenting, but just how it was presented. And a lot of that just stemmed from the legal description of the right of way and how that went. Basically, what spurred this, from my understanding, is Dairyland is replacing the topmost wire. They're not changing the amount of power they're transmitting through the lines. They're not planning to change that. They're replacing the topmost line with a different type of line that will also contain fiber optics for their internal communication. And in doing so, that does technically probably change the original easement purpose, which was for power transmission. So to bring everything up, they have presented another easement. And then with that, that got us looking at the easement and some of the conditions around that easement and the requirement that some things get cleaned up. And so like I said, they've been with us. We've walked the property 2 or 3 times now. Met a few times to answer our questions and have presented us with an easement. The compensation for the easement is actually set at $4,000. Again, we're not selling any property. We're just giving them the rights of the easement. And then due to the fact that we are going to have some trees taken out, trees that are hazardous to the lines in the easement, they have also presented us with a pre-construction damage claim agreement, basically allowing us enough funds to replace trees without limiting us to a certain number. But the way that they based it would be for another $4,000 on that. So we'll be able to make that strip, and it's a strip right along Education Avenue, across from the west side of the elementary school. Robert, anything additional?
I think you've covered it pretty well. They had an easement before, and this is to clarify, obviously, the extra communication. So it's not a new easement, it's just a clarification to allow them to, obviously, to have it spelled out that they can use the communications portion on that topmost wire. And they've been very, very good to work with and answering our questions. For those of you who don't know, the Education Avenue is a city street. They have a 66 wide strip of land, 33 feet on either side of the center line of Education Avenue. It belongs to the city of Viroqua. And then there's 40 feet between that amount of that parcel that the city owns and our lot line to the west. And so we were able to grant the easement then for the 40 feet there. And then of course they'll need to get their other 40 feet from our adjacent landowners. Again, it's pretty straightforward, pretty normal situation. I think I have about 8 acres under Maryland power lines, so I didn't get 4,000, but hint, hint.
Darylyn's been very, very good to work with, and we walked it with Cody and Terry and talked about so that we were very clear as to which vegetation we would be taking out and which we would be, you know, there is a fence line. They've been in contact with our neighbors, actually trying to help us get in contact with each other to talk, you know, as you know, good fences make good neighbors, and our fence probably needs some repair. So, or their fence probably needs some repair, or both of our fence, whoever's fence it is, probably needs some repair and taking care of, I guess. So all this is real good and very happy with the way it turned out, especially when, you know, it just kind of sat for 3 months while we were waiting for all this to settle down and we could meet again.
Well, we don't know exactly when this might take place. My understanding is perhaps August.
Yes, we're waiting for some environmental permitting, just trying to get all our ducks in a row before we send the crews in, but Steve will be around if there's any crew impact, your activities here, he'll let you know. And, but we should be pretty much right around by the line. And maybe have to utilize the street a little bit, but other than that, it should be on your way.
Great. Matt, do you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think it's been covered.
Okay. So with that, I'd like to thank both of the Steves for coming tonight, because I know it's a long distance that you drove, and we really appreciate your willingness to be here. If we needed any questions asked, does anyone else have any questions to ask? With that, motion to approve as presented, or we already have that. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. And thank you, Mike, also for your work with this, and Tom as well. The next item of business, and you guys can stay as long as you'd like. You are so welcome. We can have you here till 10 o'clock.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment, Beth? All right, seeing none, we'll go to the consent agenda. Motion to approve proof of public notice, approval of agenda, June minutes, and voucher summary 1. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? With that, all in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Voucher summary 2, motion to approve voucher summary 2 in the amount of $246,026.62 as presented. Is there a motion? Is there any discussion? With that, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Donations over $250. Motion to accept the donations, the amount of $5,914 from Liberty Steel and Wire rebate donation, $414 to FFA and Performing Arts Booster Club, $5,500 towards the purchase of a grand piano with thanks for their generosity. Is there a motion?
So
Is there a second?
Second.
Mike, did you want to add anything?
That's part of the district who is working on a new grand piano for the students to use and for our performers. And you know, he's done a great job of getting donations. obviously is one of the larger donations to the Performing Arts Booster Club for $5,500, and then the Liberty Steel and Wire for 3-day program.
Any discussion?
So why does a grand piano cost more than a grand?
With that, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried with thanks for everyone's generosity. It sounds like wonderful additions to for our students and staff. Resignations, we have none. Boy, is that a nice thing to see in July. Let's hope that continues. Appointments, motion to accept the appointment of Kristen Potter, Title I teacher. Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second?
Second.
All right, would you, I'm not sure if it's Tom or if it's Pat would like to get some more information about this title teacher.
Yep, I can. We interviewed last Thursday afternoon, quick to get this done, but we have the title staff that was up here and a classroom teacher. So we can all have a lens on it, the title teachers have a lens, I have my lens, what I'm looking at. I call them teachers, third grade teachers. But Kristen she's taught for 11 years at a variety of grade levels, which was a big plus, for pre-K, K, first, second, fourth. And mostly by her choosing. She wanted to get to different levels, and this was her passion is reading. Her master's thesis is on balanced literacy. She kind of checked without it being right in the question. She checked off like everything we were looking for. She had experience with PLCs. She was part of their continuous improvement team. It just was like, wow, the relationship. It was a really easy decision for the committee. She's a nice teacher, actually. I've heard we don't hold that against.
Only a little bit.
I wants to get back to this area. She's over. We realized some things over COVID that aren't so bad. She wants to get back closer to her family. So, yeah, she'll be a real good fit. And Beck all said that, like, unfortunately, why we hate to lose her, but this is what she's made to do. So I think it'll be a real good plus in the direction we're headed. The school she was at just made that switch a few years ago from targeted interventions to Schoolwide. That'll be a good help as well.
Do you know how many applicants we have for the position?
We had 6. One withdrew. We interviewed 3.
Okay, wonderful.
I did have an opportunity to speak with her, and she's extremely excited. I believe she has a 4-year-old, is what she said. So I'm getting home is, that's what she definitely getting that stage where she wants to be with next to her grandparents. So.
Well, thank you for that. Any other discussion? With that, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2020-2021 academic standards. I move to approve the proposed notice of student academic standards for 2020-21 as presented to the board pursuant section 120.1213B and 11831GA of the state statutes. And I move to direct the administration to incorporate the board adopted student academic standards that are B and F in effect for the 2020-21 school year into a notice for parents and guardians that the administration shall provide in a manner that is consistent with the requirements of section 120.1213 of the state statutes. I make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
You gonna repeat that?
I could, but I didn't do it very well the first time, and I don't know how to do it better next. Kathy, anybody, Pat, anybody?
I can say a little bit.
Okie doke.
If I'm invited.
You are invited.
From here, or do I go off again?
I'm gonna have you a little closer, just because it's a little more difficult to hear. If you don't mind.
Okay, so, DPI is gifting us with 3 new sets of standards again this year. And those are in FIED, personal financial literacy, and some updated English language arts standards. So, I reached out to CISA right away to see what they have planned. The ELA person is the one who is going to be my resource for the whole process. She shared with me the 3-year rollout process that she recommends using for any set of standards. So we are planning to follow the first year, this would be this year, is just the understanding year, looking at what these new standards are, whether they're dramatically different or just little tweaks from what the previous standards were. And at CISA, it's actually 3 separate contact people, but each of them said they're planning some session with financial literacy and the revised ELA standards. So the folks that represent those teams at our school, I will try to encourage to join me at those so that we can just understand what these new standards look like. The next year, year 2, is more of the looking at our current curriculum and seeing how it matches up and seeing what we want to see in essential standards. And then the 3rd year is the year where you roll it out, you add assessment, you try it out. It's the implementation year. So with these new standards, our handy curriculum calendar may need a little adjusting, and I know John mentioned that already, and Tom and I have talked about the fact that we may need to do a few moves on there just to make sure that these new DPI standards and the 3-year rollout plan match what we have here, so that we're not expected to have something ready before we've had the chance to really dig in and understand the new standards. So that's what I know.
Maybe they were busy with.
I know.
COVID stuff too.
It almost seemed a little tone deaf when I got that email, a little bit, like, really?
No.
But I will give Krista a huge shout out here. So she not only is starting this new position, and you saw the role she took with that title team, but also it was, hi, Krista, I'm Tom. Here are some new standards. Let's go. How should we handle this? And she's really just kind of grabbed a hold of it and taken this over. And I'm very, very grateful for that, especially while the admin team is definitely, it's just comforting knowing we've got somebody that is absolutely going, doing these other things so that we can focus more on getting the school to open.
So, where you go, so that calendar, I think it probably already did some tweaking anyway. So when might we see what that calendar might look like? And I don't, do we need to approve that revised calendar?
I don't believe you have to approve any of that. What I would say is we can come with, when we have, we can definitely come with an update. Technically have to approve that, however. They have released, at least from what I looked into, Krista, correct me if I'm wrong, they have released what that will look like for 2024, I believe.
Yeah.
So that we're not surprised next year. I think they've now released that extended. Okay, what subjects are they looking at the next few years that we're not coming back here in a year and going, oh wait, they're doing science, or again, are doing math now. So now we can kind of correlate and really match up really nicely from here on out.
I think in the past, we did approve of it, not necessarily, but just because we wanted to keep on track and we weren't necessarily keeping on track. So just let us know when you're ready to roll out what that calendar might look like.
It's in the works.
It's in the works. That's good to know. Thank you for staying here and presenting that.
Thank you.
So with that, any more discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. So I know Robert's on mute and he gets kind of difficult to hear. Beth, can you hear? Are they telling you they're voting? Just so I know. Are they doing a thumbs up?
But the other two I can tell.
You can tell. Okay.
But he usually unmutes when he's making decisions.
Okay. I just haven't quite heard that voice and I can't see always, so I just wanted to make sure everybody is voting. The next item is the 2020-21 parent and student handbooks. Is there a motion to approve the 2021 elementary school VAMs and middle school, high school parent and student handbooks with the information that was presented?
Oh,
Is there a second? So I state that because the information that's in the handbooks is spot on, but there may be some tweaking to how it's being presented. Like if you're a parent and you see it differently later on, it may look a little different later on, but the information is the same. All right.
one question I have is, if in the middle school, high school, taking out like staff and all that, but it wasn't in the elementary.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
That's it, yep. So what we had done, Jason had approached me about, just, it's 70 pages long. Parents reading a 70-page document, probably not going to go very long. Yeah, so everyone, give Jason a big thanks for that. So what we had talked about was just making the policies and everything like that reference points. You can go and find this policy by clicking on the link and it's active. Or, if you did really want to go and get a hard copy, you could. But and so what that did was that made middle school, high school, much shorter. And now we'll be catching up with that as well. I do want to make a note that and make that known for everybody is that we will have a COVID addendum that will be added on to this that will not necessarily override but almost supersede the policies that are in there that would be overlapping. So an example, and we don't have anything specific in that parent student handbook, but if we had something on Halloween masks or something like that, we may be having very different policies and procedures this year with facial coverings than we do otherwise. And so that's just one example.
And what I had requested is we had worked for quite a few years to get those two handbooks to be as similar as possible. And then there were some changes and that just started, and obviously that is not the priority with everything else going on in summer school starting. So it won't look like it was presented, but the information will be the same. And the other thing was, for example, high school, it had the name of the policy and go to the website, and I said, why not just list them all and just say go to the website versus trying to make it more concise. And we want our families to use the website more than they have in the past too. So and the reality is most parents probably don't read all of that, but hopefully, doesn't mean that they shouldn't. I know I did, but those people don't.
And some of the things parents are already using the website for, so why, if you were in a context or like you're going to like you're not looking for that 70-page handbook sitting around somewhere.
Or you're Googling it. There's just different formats today than what there were.
I assume that we probably have a much better handle on which families don't have the technology access. So I guess I hope we make sure that they're aware they can have a printed copy, because I'm guessing we know almost exactly who doesn't have the technology access they need in the way they need it or whatever. Because there still are a few of those out there.
And I don't know if that was in there. Again, that's a good point. So is there something that we sent out that says if you want a paper copy, is that included?
I think I saw it in the registration forms.
Okay.
They can sign up, say yes, I prefer, whichever way it is, I prefer electronic, which is fine, or I prefer paper.
Or maybe there would be one that would say, I need all of the information in paper. I mean, I don't know, but that's something to think of so that you have that available, John.
In the past, we've invited parents in to use technology. And then they go to the public library. So, during COVID, right now it's to the public library.
No, but the library is open right now for computers if you sign up.
They're in phase 3 now, which
Right. You
why
don't have
they
to
can use
sign up.
technology.
You don't have to sign up now in phase 3.
Okay.
But some people might have a health problem
They
and
can't
not
do
need
that.
do that, so they still might not need a paper copy.
Absolutely.
So just something else. Any other discussion? With that, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all for that work. I know yes, that's everything else going on. 2019-20 budget adjustments. Motion to approve the 2019-20 budget adjustments as recommended by the Budget and Finance Committee. Is there a motion? Is there
Marina.
Marina? All right. With that, Mike, do you want to give us some more information or pretty clear? Do you want to share anything?
These will be the final budget amendments for the 1920 school year, which ended 3 weeks ago. So obviously it should be the final ones, but they are what we would call the cleanup, the taking a look at how things actually finished up the year, more so this year than most every other year, just because a lot of our expenses became unpredictable by the end of the year, and we did our best to try to adjust on the fly and make decisions that financially and program with our program made the most sense. And these budget adjustments reflect that.
Any discussion? Going once, going twice. With that, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Mike, thank you for all of that. I know that it's been amazingly complicated with COVID and all of the changes, and thank you for, I'm sure, the hundreds of hours that you have spent trying to update this information. So it's very much appreciated. Item number 9, information, 2019-20 seclusion and restraint report. Kathy, you're up.
I am. So the seclusion and restraint report is added to your board packet. Jana completed it. I am just, presenting it. It was basically, we have to report how many students we have had to put in holds or to calm down in a calm down room, that kind of thing, in a seclusion setting. This year looked to be a very good year. There was only one student. It was the same student. And there were only 4 incidents. So 2 incidents of restraint and 4 of seclusion to calm down. So a calming kind of thing, which is a very good year in a special ed setting. So that little guy is still learning how to figure it out, and they're working really hard to combat those things. We continue to teach our staff de-escalation techniques through CPI. There are 48 staff on staff that have that training, 3 administrators. That was last year's administrators. I'm assuming that all 3 building principals, and I also have that. So that would be 4 that are available for this next year. And we'll continue that. We have a CPI certified trainer on staff. One of our special ed teachers is a certified trainer, so we'll continue certifying the staff to work through those de-escalation techniques and do these things safely and effectively. So that is basically it in a nutshell. It looks like they were moving in the right direction based on my analysis of this information. So it was good.
Questions for Kathy? the one question I had, I mean, the year of COVID, so we weren't here all year.
Mhm.
Did that student, I hope, receive some assistance at home and with the family, with them not being in school to better serve that individual?
I cannot
Can't
answer that
you weren't
question.
here.
I
Okay,
wasn't
sorry.
here. I know that he was in a program that would have been reaching out to him.
Okay,
So I'm hoping that that is the case.
I would assume.
And I would assume that. But again, not being specifically and not specifically having my eyes on that child or understanding the family. I can't quite answer that, but yes, I assume. I would hope so as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. The next item is the 2020-21 preliminary budget.
Again, for information, as I shared with the Budget and Finance Committee, realistically, nothing has changed at the state level to cause us to really present for you a change or approval. We may have that by next month, or at least by next month, I'll have some other of our expenditures a little bit tighter as far as what we're looking at. Obviously, we need to have something approved, and we have a budget approved. But I'd like it to be a little bit more accurate to where we're at from what was previously approved earlier in the spring. Out of Madison, we're not hearing much. That we do know July 15th was the tax due date, and payments were due July 15th, and we should have an analysis. Yeah, it's for me, I think. So we lost our view.
Well, Mike, if you wanted to be done talking, you could
Yeah.
have done it a different way.